Parimal sir, with your permission, could we begin?
Yes, Anna, you may start.
All right. I hope that's feasible with the speakers also. All right.
Yes.
So good evening, everybody. I'm Taina Majithia, and a big thank you to everybody for taking out their valuable time today for today's session. This series is hosted, this IPR webinar series is hosted by CVIP in conjunction with MeitY Startup Hub or MSH. Our topic for discussion today is winning patent strategies. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce to you our two speakers for today. First, Mr. Ankit Mehta, co-founder and CEO of IdeaForge. Sir is an IIT Bombay alumni, leading the charge to deliver cutting-edge technology that is made in India and second to none in the world. IdeaForge, being a product-focused UAV systems company developing drone solutions for a variety of applications, Sir has been contributing greatly in this endeavor. Our second speaker for the day, Primrose Tina, or Associate Manager Research for IP for IdeaForge. She manages and expands the patent portfolio at IdeaForge and also has assisted in devising IdeaForge's patent strategy and is a registered patent agent. Over to you, Ankit.
Thank you, Tanya. It's a pleasure to be taking this quick session with everybody on what IdeaForge does with respect to patent and the kind of strategies that we have adopted in general for patenting in our company. Before that, just to elaborate and elucidate a little bit more about IdeaForge to the audience here. IdeaForge was started by me and my co-founders almost straight out of our college, IIT Bombay. And we essentially have been building drones since 2004. Till 2008, since we first built our drone, we were largely playing around with the technology. But in 2008, when the attacks in Mumbai happened, is when we decided that we missed an opportunity to serve our nation, wherein our products could have been useful and may have been utilized potentially for looking into the high-rise buildings that the terrorists were holed up in, instead of trying to look at them from naval helicopters that were flying around those regions at that time. So that's how we decided that we're going to build our solutions for our forces who have dire need for those products. And since then, we've been building these solutions for security and surveillance applications, as well as recently for mapping applications as well. If I were to briefly share a fun anecdote about IdeaForge, is that one of the early prototypes of ours, which was made in the movie Three Idiots, was actually an early prototype that we were flying around in IIT Bombay when it was spotted, and we were requested to be a part of the movie. So in a way, we have pioneered this space in our country and woken up pretty much everyone's consciousness in that direction. Our products have been adopted by almost all of our forces in the country and are deployed by our Army, Navy, Air Force, all of our police forces, and now are also used for mapping under the Swamitwa Yojana, which is one of the largest mapping programs in the world. From the very beginning, our impetus and our force has been on intellectual property. And a quick testament to that is also the fact that we were recently recognized by the Indian Patent Office as the top MSME, and we received the National IPR Award for 2020. We've been building technology, but to be honest, when we began our company, there was always a desire to file patents, but it is not always possible to aggressively file patents or to do it while you are trying to sustain a small organization. And therefore, in line with that constraint, we still always made sure that we invest in technology and we look at the right opportune moments and also look at the right kind of intellectual property protections that we can apply for. So from building the world's smallest and lightest autopilot in 2009 till today, we've filed, I think, over 20 plus patents. Several of them have been granted as well, and several of them are in the examination and other stages. But our focus has been to largely keep working and keep pushing the boundaries of technology. And because we've kept pushing the boundaries of technology, we've kept innovating, we typically find that that process itself leads to a lot of new ideas being generated and new applications of how things were built earlier, and adaptations to that come up, and you are able to build a very, very robust portfolio of solutions that have something or the other which is innovative that the world hasn't done earlier, because you cannot push the boundary of technology unless and until you are in a position where you are able to create something new that helps you push that boundary ahead as far as technology is concerned. And because we had this concerted effort in that direction, we've been able to deploy systems that have done over 190,000 operations in the hands of our customer, building extremely reliable solutions that are currently operated at the rate of close to about every 10 to 15 minutes, one IdeaForge drone today takes off in the country for either improving the productivity or to bring our rural population in the economic mainstream, or to enhance the security of our country. With that, I just wanted to sort of give a quick lens of the kind of strategies and approaches that we have adopted in IdeaForge. I think from the very beginning, because we were conscious of having an intellectual property based development or industrial intellectual property based portfolio or value creation in the company, we were always conscious, but we had to iterate over several years to arrive at the current patent strategy that we have and how we look at patents in general. It also happens that when you start investing in patents, it increasingly becomes an expensive affair, because it is not just a one-time activity, but it is a repeat maintenance activity, as well as when you start going to international patent filing, it becomes very, very expensive progressively. And therefore, we have to come up with a lot of strategies and ensure that there is the right balance between what is technology that you will use as a means of preventing others from building that same solution and selling, or what patents or what technologies will you build or will you put in the bucket of where those technologies are only meant to prevent others from preventing you. So a lot of times what happens is, and particularly in today's context, patents get filed based on the date of filing of the application and not on the date of invention any longer. And because the date of filing of the patent becomes critical, it is important at times to make sure that anything that you have done which is innovative is at least patented to prevent others from preventing you from making it. Even if they copy what you've done, they should not be able to prevent you from using it if it is an important part of your product, or you just don't want to go through that hassle of changing something because somebody else prevented and you were the original inventor of the idea. But a lot of times you have to also identify, as I have understood, that there are several technology areas that you really don't want to protect or reveal at all. And a bunch of those things you have to keep with yourself if they are not easily identifiable or easily copyable by anybody else. And therefore, a large part of what we build at times, if it is meant in the software domain or is embedded code, to really just protect it from being copied or from being decoded or the source code not being available. And that is sufficient protection, because that actually has a longer shelf life if you can protect it for a significantly longer period of time. Therefore, that is also one of the ways in which you protect your intellectual property. But there are times when you have to look at protecting or preventing others from making the same technology that you are using in your products. And at that time, patenting it in the rest of the world is also equally crucial. And one of the decision-making points for us, and I can give you an example. For example, if I build a very, very interesting latching mechanism for connecting two parts together, while that latching mechanism may be very innovative in a product that is worth a few lakhs of rupees, if the cost of that part is going to be 10 rupees manufacturing cost, and if the economic advantage that it brings is not going to be significantly that much more that it can be called as a competitive advantage of the product in that broad sense, and there are several alternatives available, you just don't want people to prevent you from making it. And therefore, you will go ahead and file it as a patent in maybe just the Indian geography, making sure that nobody in the world can prevent you from using your own technology in the future. But let us say, for example, there is a technology where it is the configuration of a device that is the reason why the device is innovative and can deliver a certain performance and forms the core part of a family of products that you are likely to be building based on that technology, then it will be advisable to go to the world, at least go to the key markets where you expect in the future that a large amount of your economic value or your revenue is likely to come from, and go and protect the technology in those markets and in those regions as well on top of that. Please understand that it is not easy to do this. That is why there is a lot of opportunity given by the patenting regime for you to, one, convert sometimes an idea that you filed a patent on into an actual technology, into an actual product. And that's where for international filing, you get priority up to 30 months from the date of filing of your patent to decide in which markets and in which form and fashion will you be putting in your applications in various countries. But it is still a very, very involved process, and because the costs associated are so large, you have to be very, very clear about what you're doing there. One of the other things that I did in the company was that made sure that every decision that we take on IP is not a very stressful decision. And I think that is also a very, very critical aspect of managing IP, because if every decision, every time you have to take that complicated call or a gut feel based call on what is going to be patented, what is not going to be patented, why it should be patented, why it should not be patented, it becomes very difficult to govern that aspect of technology. And half the time, I think we don't invest enough time and energy in doing that. And that's one of the reasons why people actually give up on not filing patents or not focusing enough attention to intellectual property. So one of the things that we did was we've sort of institutionalized evaluation of patents. And there are several techniques and technologies, and my colleague today will also share some thoughts here in terms of those aspects of protecting IP. And that has really helped us tremendously by de-linking the effort of recognizing what should be patented to its commercial, connecting it to its commercial value, and bringing in the entire aspect by answering a ton of questions, which in the end give you the result that whether, or it throws up a recommendation at least, whether this particular technology should be protected or should not be protected. If it should be protected, should be protected worldwide, should it be protected in a limited set of key markets, or should it be protected only in our country, to make sure that we are able to take a very, very nuanced call about the investments we are going to make in intellectual property. And intellectual property investments are, of course, extremely crucial to make, because in most cases, when you are a business that is built on the IP that you are creating, not having a recognizable intellectual property portfolio means that you will not get as well valued in the market as you should be. Therefore, it becomes an essential part of creating defensible or defensibility around technology. So with that, those thoughts and key ideas that I wanted to share on the call today, I'll request my colleague Primrose to take up some of the further nuances of the kind of strategy that we are building in IdeaForge. Primrose, over to you.
Thank you, Ankit. Okay. So patent strategy for a company is nothing but something a company or the top management actually decides to do with its patents or inventions that it holds very important to its company. So it's basically the important actions that the company takes to realize these patent filings, and which can also be said as what to patent, what not to patent, the idea to filter out the inventions that come in, which usually takes a lot of money to patent file. So in order to build a patent strategy, first we have to organize the system. There must be someone or someone in your team who at least has some knowledge regarding patents, who can be a part-time worker or someone who looks into it in all the time. So this person can be a patent administrator who oversees and coordinates and manages all the patent process. So this will basically be your IP team. Another important team in your company should be someone called as the patent review committee. Now this patent review committee basically evaluates all the inventions that come in and decides whether you will go for patent filing or not. Once you have these two important teams in your place, you can over time then think about other things like, do you want to conduct a competitive analysis of patents to understand the industry, or to understand the patent portfolios of your competitors, to understand their tactics of patent filing. You also have to tune the budget as you go with these things. So from what we do in our company, from invention to patent filing. So we actually get a lot of inventions from the R&D team. So first the inventions are submitted to this IP person or the IP team, where this gets thoroughly reviewed. The IP team actually reviews whether the information received from the inventor is complete. They try to dig out even thoroughly the information from the inventors. They discuss it with the inventors and understand the crux and features of the invention. So once these features, yes?
I just wanted to add, sorry to intervene.
No.
Just wanted to add that a lot of times what we've also seen in IdeaForge is that R&D team members are not aware of whether something is an invention or not. So often the invention or the patents in charge or responsible person actually goes and interviews the team on floor to encourage them to suggest what is it that they think they've done new, and try and recognize that there may be an intellectual property hidden in the work that has been done, and then bring it up to encouraging them to write the invention disclosures. Sometimes the invention disclosures are written by the patent team, because engineering team or the development team a lot of times is so caught up in what they're doing, they end up missing that part as well. So we have to literally go and fish out the intellectual property that we are creating in our business at times. Just want to share that.
Yeah, sure. So once the invention or the technical description of the invention is received by the patent team, the patent team then understands the features of the invention and does a very basic patentability check. Now, a patentability check is something where we try to find out prior published articles or patents or any scientific journal related articles in the magazine, which are very similar to our invention. So we usually do it in free databases like eSpaceNet, Google Patents USPTO. We also use Google searches. So once the patent team understands the features of the invention, we make a basic search strategy for it and search it in the patent databases and the Google search. And once we get a number of search results, we go through these search results to understand which inventions are very similar to the invention which is submitted to us. Once we find a set of inventions and articles related to it, we exactly compare it with our invention. We have to check at this stage whether the invention's prior art information that we have found is very similar to our invention or is exactly the same. If we think that the information is exactly the same, then we go back to the inventor, show them the prior art, discuss it with them. And if the inventor also agrees that no, yes, both the inventions are same, then we suggest them whether should we modify it to get a patent filing, or should we work on it further. If the invention is different, is slightly different, even a small, even slightest of modification is there, then we take it up to the next step. That is the patent review committee. Now, this committee is basically a team of members who are from different sections of the company, who have different skills and different competitiveness, who are mostly from either business, the business team, who can give their viewpoint on the business aspect of the invention, a person from the technical team who knows what is actually going on the invention, someone from the IP team who can give their viewpoint on the IP related aspects, and also someone from the finance team who can give financial related information. So for this team to evaluate the invention, we actually have an evaluation strategy for the inventions that we receive. So this is basically a scoring sheet where we score the invention based on different categories. For example, novelty, detectability, alignment to internal business plans, and so on. So what is novelty? Novelty is where we check how different is our invention than the prior art. Is it groundbreaking? We can't expect every invention to be groundbreaking. So is it at least a little different from the inventions that are already available in the market, already which are patented? So if an invention is novel, then it is given a scoring, and we also weight these points on based on their importance. After this, the level of detectability of the invention is also taken. Detectability is something what we can say is whether someone is infringing you, and how easy is it for your team to find out whether someone is infringing you. For example, the invention is related something to a software program which is completely code based, and this code based cannot be detected. Even if someone is using it, even your team can't detect that the competitor or someone who is using your invention is using yours. In that case, the detectability of your invention becomes not detectable at all. But if it is easily detectable, in that case, it's good. Like if a competitor infringes on your invention and you are able to easily find the invention that they are they are infringing you, it's easily enforceable. You can actually go and sue them that they are using your invention. But if you are not able to identify they are infringing you, then we have to think over that whether a patent is important at this place. is it the right mode of decision to get a patent where we give out our information, but we don't have have the opportunity to enforce it? The next one is comparison of invention with best design around alternative. Suppose you have an invention, you have a product that you have developed, and there is another product which is which has much better output than yours, but you have tried to modify your invention so that you want to do something different. But if a customer is buying your invention, they might think that the other product is much better because of its maybe performance advantages or because of some advantage. In that case, your invention is not the best invention out there. You have to think on this as well. The next would be alignment to internal business plan. So you have to think, if you have an invention, in how many products is your invention going to be in? Is this product going to be released in the market in a year, or is it a side invention or a side idea that will not be implemented for more than 5 or 6 years? Will you be actually working on that idea's invention? Will you be actually commercializing that invention? Is it aligned with your business plan? Are you ready to put that much money on that invention, which may not, come out commercialized at all, which may be sidelined? Then you have to think, what is the life expectancy of your invention? We know that, technology keeps changing, especially at this century. So if you bring out a product, you have to check whether for how many years your product will be in the market. In how many years there needs to be a change in the product. If you are expecting your product to be in the market for only a year, you have to think, do you have to put so much money on your invention for patent filing if your product is just going to be on the line for a year? Because a patent's lifetime is for 20 years. So at least if it is in the market for 5 to 6 years, you can surely go for patent filing. You also have to think about the economic benefits of the invention. Like Ankit mentioned earlier, if we are going for a patent filing of a latch of a very big product which just costs 10 rupees and it's not a very core product to our product, and we are not sure whether we will actually be using this latch, and maybe we can even buy a cheaper latch than that instead of spending much more money on that latch. We have to think how much is the economic benefit of that invention that it's going to give us. We have to also very specifically decide whether you want to go for patent filing or you have to keep this particular invention as a trade secret. Because with patent filing, you are essentially giving out your secrets in public for a patent. We also have to decide, is the cost justified for the invention? So in order to actually keep cost control, we usually go for 3 to 5 nations filing for core intellectual assets. So patent strategy, how a patent strategy can be in the initial years of your company. In the initial years, you don't have to think a lot about how we are going to license your patents or how we are going to enforce your patents. All you are trying to do at the initial years is that you are trying to build up a patent portfolio. Now this patent portfolio in the initial years can be something related to defensive and marketing strategy, where you are actually trying to protect what you are doing, where you want to protect yourself, and also for marketing strategy that you have so and so patents. one of the most important things in patent strategy is to evaluate what is the cost you are going to spend. Essentially, I would say that you initially evaluate the patent costs in each countries that you are planning to file. For example, at least the major countries you should know, like India, US, Europe, Korea, Japan, Australia, China. So these are the major countries where people usually file their patents. So you should know, if you're going to enter into a US or Europe, what is the lifetime cost of a patent? It can be around 15,000 to 25,000 dollars and euros. So this is going to be a huge amount. So first you have to evaluate what the cost of these patents are going to be in each country. And then you also have to evaluate what is going to be your budget, because you will have an estimated number of patents that you are willing to file in a year, maybe 3 to 5, that you are thinking that we should get a patent at least. Then you also have to manage the cost of all the office actions that take place of the previously filed patents. So I would say that, before the financial year starts, you start estimating and determining the budgets and the estimates that you are going to have. This will save a lot of money later, because you will already know how much you are aiming for, and how much, if you are going to file this so and so patents in these much countries, in 3 to 5 countries, how much you will have to put in the money on. And then this can be a strategy for the initial years, but over time, as you go, you can modify your patent strategy. You can learn from these experiences and modify your patent strategy. You can also keep different strategies for different levels of invention. Like the smaller inventions, you can go for like a single country, and the very core inventions you can go for 3 to 5 countries. But you even after several years, you still have to determine the IP cost every year. Nurturing creative ideas from IP point of view. So basically, this is what Ankit was mentioning, that once the company grows, the team that starts working, the R&D team that starts working, they are mostly focused on their development, research and development. They are not very much into the patent filing and invention aspects, especially when the inventor or when the researcher has to themselves do the entire work of documenting their work and submitting it to the IP team. So in that case, we suggest that there should be regular discussions between the IP team and the R&D team, so that we should actually give the R&D team an overview that how their research and development can be translated into patents, and how these can actually become something as an asset to the company. This will help the inventors see beyond development, beyond a certain product, and as a patent. So the IP team actually clarifies the inventors' doubts, questionnaires they raise up, they discuss. This gives an opportunity for the inventors to freely come and discuss their ideas with the IP team, ask them whether this is patentable or not. Apart from this, field observations, where the IP team is taken to the R&D team to tell them what are the new products they have come up with. The IP team might have much more ideas than the R&D team. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Primrose. Yes, so if you both have some time, we'll quickly take up 1 or 2 questions. and also telling everybody in the audience to please feel free to drop in their queries in the chat box, and that will be taken up by me. Okay, Primrose, first for you. If you could just take us over as a walkthrough as how you would perceive a change in the in the patent filing mechanism pre and post pandemic.
So maybe I would, reevaluate the costs of filing in each country. Maybe I would reduce the number of countries I would be going for, because maybe actually there is not much of a change in pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, because during the pandemic time there was a stall in in R&D and inventions and innovations. Everything was at a standstill. But once the pandemic is almost over, I see that the inventions, the R&D team is still working on, everything is going on. So maybe we just go on as we were earlier, unless your business is quite hardly stricken by the pandemic.
Right. And second, being for you, Ankit.
Yeah.
That what would be tips or do's and don'ts for young startup budding entrepreneurs to build a good patent portfolio?
So I think, I feel that one is that a lot of times we initially do things for doing them differently. But doing them differently, as you must have realized over the course of what Primrose was sharing, that doing differently is not good enough. It has to have a lot of meaning behind it as well. So initially, you may let go of things that don't matter as much to you or to your product, and not go after small filings, or limit it to just filing it in India and keeping it as a part of your portfolio to create a portfolio or a evidence of the fact that you're innovative. But I think in general, as you push the boundaries of technology, don't be blinded by just keeping on working, but also evaluate if this is something I can protect or not. Because if other people copy what you're doing, a lot of times the advantage that you have of having come up with something new can quickly get passed on to everybody else. In general, I've seen that when you speak about the fact that you have patents, and over a period of time, some of those patents become granted as well. And I have seen that particularly the Indian Patent Office has accelerated the way in which patents are granted today. In fact, I think between me and Primrose, we were surprised when one of our patents got granted in what, 6 months, Primrose?
Yeah. In a year.
So, within a year, right? Which is
Yes.
phenomenal. Like, I don't think I even used to receive responses. Like, I filed a patent when I was a student. I don't think we ever received responses less than once in 2-3 years on a patent application. And here we are talking about getting a patent granted in a year. So actually speaking, you can have some really quick wins and make sure that you have your evidence that is backing you with respect to being innovative, and that stamp of having a patent granted is genuinely a very, very useful stamp when you look at how the rest of the world evaluates you, right? So initially you may go for those quick wins, get those early examinations done, get a couple of patents granted, and that will start putting in the necessary credibility of pitting you as a innovative company in general. But I would not overtly sweat. As long as possible, if something can be a trade secret, keep it a trade secret. Ultimately, Pepsi, Coke, McDonald's, all of them do this only, right? So it's not a bad idea to have trade secrets as well. They do sustain competitive advantages like nothing else can for the longest period of time. But there are risks that it is a 0-1 game. If you do not protect it, and if it gets leaked, then it is public property. So there are risks with keeping a trade secret, but at the same time, there are advantages, and you have to be conscious. You have to continuously iterate to your team that what they are doing and what they are building is the property of the business, which is ultimately paying the salaries, and therefore we all need to consciously protect the intellectual property that has been created, and we need to identify it as well. And like I said, initially maybe the promoters themselves part-time will do it, like I used to, but then eventually having a dedicated person or somebody whose significant responsibility is to take care of the patent portfolio is really useful, really helps in creating an actual culture around intellectual property in the company.
Right, Ankit. So can we take one last question, please, if that's okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So if you have an innovative product, natural compound, and bioactivity, is it better to file a patent or to collaborate with industry for commercialization?
See, if it's a natural compound with bioactivity, see, it depends, right? I mean, if it can be attributed to your efforts, it's better to protect it and then go for commercialization. But if it is something which is naturally occurring and you really can't protect it, then maintain the halo around the invention for as long as you can and commercialize it, because you will get the window only once. Again, everything depends on what Primrose was suggesting on whether people can detect it or not. If they can detect and easily decode your invention, then in general, I would say that just go and protect it, because if it has significant economic value for you, you will be better off in having that exclusivity of being the only one who can build it. You may tomorrow decide to, like Elon Musk, make it available to everybody, but at a given point in time, your stamp as an innovator is always going to help you bring in more credibility to your efforts. But if it is something that you cannot protect, and that is something which I'm not an expert in the biochemistry or the chemistry area, so I can't say that whether such a thing can be protected or not. But if it can be, then you'll be better off, unless you believe that people can't reverse engineer.